do that. All right. So everyone, at 7:30, it's time to tune in. We've got our last session here with Jael. I know that we would love to keep her on forever to teach these classes, but it is 2:30 in the morning right now in Israel, and I'm sure she's like, this is about enough. Maybe 3 years from now I'll reconsider or something like that. But it's been a joy to have Jael. I've received nothing but exciting comments about last week, and I am confident that this week is going to be just as good. So Jael, I turn it over to you, my friend.
All right. Yeah. So when you just said we want to, we want to keep me here forever, I'm like,
Yeah.
no. So, but no, we're good. I'm good for this session. Gonna have some time to recover tomorrow. But yeah. So in we dive. I promised you all that this week we were gonna do a lot more music, and I'm gonna tell you a lot more about my own personal journey and story and all that. So before we start, or rather, let us start with a song that I wanted to share with you guys, which is called "Here I Am." Irit, and I'm going to be referring to her quite a bit because in the last decade, until she married 2 years ago, we did a lot of things together. Most of the stuff we did together, since we were directing the worship center together and shared an apartment for a while. And so a lot of our journey goes together. So anyways, Here I Am, that's the name of the song. Irid and I wrote it 3 years ago, I think. And tells a story of a young child from the Bible. And I will tell you all about it after we listen to it.
Here I am, just as I am, right before your eyes, all laid aside, ears open wide. Who am I that you would allow me to hear your voice? Humbly I bow. Speak to me now. You are the great I am, faithful until the end. I call to you, Lord, will you answer? Give me a childlike faith to listen, to trust, obey, to serve only you and love you in all I do. Everything you are, Creator God, holy I cry, be lifted high. Who can stand before the Almighty and awesome God? Cleanse me of sin, refine my life, send me my King. Is listening. Speak, for your servant is listening. Speak, for your servant is listening. Speak, for your servant is listening. Oh, speak, for your servant is listening. Speak, for your servant is listening. You are the great I am, faithful until the end. I call to you, Lord, will you answer? Give me a childlike faith to listen, to trust, obey, to serve only you and love you in all I do. To serve only you and love you in all I do. To serve only you and love you in all I do.
So there you go. That was Here I Am. And let me tell you a little bit about behind the scenes or behind the song or a little bit about the song itself. For the last, I think, 10 or 11 years, have been going to or have been a part of this teens conference that takes place in Germany called LTC. This is the acronym that you saw there on the screen. It's called Life Through Christ. Gathers teens from Israel and Germany, and hence my very obvious connection to it, being half Israeli, half German. And yeah, and I think in the last seven or 8 years or so, the director of the conference asked me to write the theme song for the conference. That's how they go about it. They have a theme song for according to each topic or each theme of the year that they have. And in this particular year, we were studying about the life of Samuel the prophet. And I think the biggest desire for Irid and me, who we wrote this song together, was to have the teens meet the Lord and be able to say to him, "Speak, for your servant is listening," to recognize his voice and be able to then lead and live a life of obedience to the Lord. Another cool thing about the song is that it's the only time ever, I think, where Aid and I decided that we were a little bit on a time crunch with a whole bunch of other things. We're like, okay, we have to write the song. We only have this weekend for it. So why don't we just fly out to like Cyprus or something, which is what a lot of Israelis do, because it's just an hour flight away from here. Let's fly to Cyprus for a long weekend and dedicate the whole time to writing the song. And so that's what we did. Found a great deal, great hotel, awesome time. It was January, so it was winter. It wasn't like mid summer or something, but we were there. We went there, took my guitar, my traveling guitar with me, and it was just, yeah. So you heard this is what came out of it, but
Yael, can I ask you something? Where I mean, I'm listening to it was an amazing song, amazing, and those teens are pretty blessed to have that. But you know, you're talking about like, oh yeah, we had a weekend to put this song together. I mean, you make it sound like it's a piece of cake, but what what we just heard was such a well-produced worship song. What are the pieces to make all that come together? Do you start with the words? Did you already have an idea of a melody? All that stuff. Like, how did you come up with that?
So this is like the age-old question, what do you start with? Is it melody or is it words? And I guess it really differs. Some people are more musically inclined, so they'll have some kind of a melody inside them, and they're like, I have to put it, I have to put words to it, and so that's how they'll go. Some people are wired a little bit differently with, I have this phrase, or I read something, and it's like, I've got to find music to it. And for me, it's really a matter of, what do we need? We need that. Okay, I'll go and research. I'm like, okay, this seems like a good music that would fit something like that, and I'll try a few lines, a few chord combinations, and like, yeah, that fits. So it's not necessarily, rarely will I have a melody that I'm like, this, I need to do something with that. It did happen to me a few months, 2 months ago, I think. I was driving to my brother, I think, and I'm like, I have this melody, and so I had to, record it while I was driving, because I can't forget this, and I know it's a chorus for a different song that I'm trying to finish. So, so yeah, that can happen once in a while. But specifically for when I'm commissioned to write a song, there's a whole bunch of, it's like checking a list. It needs to be big. It needs to be, serving a certain age group. So I'll immediately go a certain way with how I think of it. So and then the checklist goes on, and you go to the meter. Is it a 6/8 type song? Is it a 4/4 type song? Is it this or that? What kind of, what key? Do we have a hook, like a melody that repeats itself? So yeah, all of these things go into that. But Irit knows all of these things, so it's not like we have to discuss it when we go to write a song. So when we know we only have a certain amount of time, we're like, okay, it's game's on.
Go time. It's go time.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask one more thing too? Because I know that we need to move on, but the thing that stuck out to me the moment you gave the background of it, which just makes it even more amazing, is I think about, you were talking about Samuel, like, that was and it was the moment where, Eli tells him, no, you respond to the voice, like, and say, here I am, and I'm thinking this was a teens conference, and how perfect that is, because Samuel was young at that time, that he would, even as a young person, would respond to God's call when he was calling him. So I just thought of that connection, and I thought that was a perfect fit for a teen conference.
Yeah, that's why it was so important, when we got to the bridge, speak for your servant is listening, to have that as basically somewhat of a climax to the song. That's why everything, fades out, and there's just almost like a whisper type thing. So yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into production. After you write the song and you have your verse, you have your chorus, the bridge, the ending, and all that, the real work starts then.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I don't know how much you. I realize that we're not going to go into too much detail in how to write a song and all that. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that there is a gazillion amount of research to everything that I write. Really, really everything that I write. Especially because I want to get my theology right. We all want to get our theology right. And the reason why I view this with such great responsibility is because when you write a song, you're really cementing and sealing a word wrapped in melody in a certain moment in time. And once you've sealed that, you've cemented that, if it's wrong, or if it's not quite there, or if it, at least theologically, then you're gonna have to do some explaining about that one day. And that's not, I don't want to do any explaining on these kinds of things. So with songwriting, some rhythms stir our hearts in a different way than others, in different moments, and they stir up different moods in us. So all of these things, they're just a tool to help us drive a point, or build a moment within the song. Again, kind of like that bridge that I mentioned. But yeah, that was the whole point of how to bring to life the life of Samuel, in a way that doesn't say Samuel in the song. Otherwise, it's very specific. So yeah, that was about that song. And we have here, I see this slide that we put up. I was gonna do a recap for last week, for those of you who haven't been there, or for those of you who joined a little bit late, or for those of you who just need a little bit memory jolt there. But you can go ahead and listen to the YouTube link, which is not on here. Maybe we can put it in the chat box if we have it there, so that it's ready for the people. And also, I think everyone got an email from just registering to the class, so they have the link there also, right?
Right. Yep, that's exactly right. You should have gotten an email already that would have connected you to that last week's message that Yael gave.
Perfect. So you have there the definition that I talked about in 3 different languages, and the how we worship, the why we worship, and the grand design, as I called it, of worship. And again, last week I promised that we were going to be hearing more music, which we will get to in a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to share with you a little bit more about the Hebrew aspect of worship. And we have here, why Jews, why Hebrew, what's so special about it, what's different about it. And that's, we're a little bit coming from different sides of the same coin. Let's call it the coin of faith. We're 2 sides, with two different representation, maybe, each of us having a distinct image and purpose. Now, there's a whole lot of theology behind that, which I am not going to go into, because it is, 40 minutes past 2 a.m. for me. And it's fragile ground to tread on, even in the brightest of midday. So I'm not going to go there. But the inner debate in me and the questions, they keep on rising quite a bit, especially when topics like that come up. Why Jews? Why Hebrew? What makes Hebrew worship special or unique or different? And I wanted to touch on 2 aspects today, as my, just as I'm reflecting on this and want to bring you on my journey of reflection, really. And these 2 aspects have nothing to do with each other. And obviously there are more, but just for the sake of time, we'll just touch on these 2. Our first aspect is more about why I choose the Jews. And as you can tell, I love sounds of things, so that title is fitting there. And the answer to this question is a simple reality that I can't do anything about, and have no control over. It just is. And by faith and submission and humility, I must accept it for what it is. And basically, I guess all of us do, because the answer to this question, why choose the Jews, is laid out for us objectively in the book of Deuteronomy. And I'll read the verses from chapter 7. For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples on the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any other people, for you were the least of all peoples, but because the Lord loves you, and because he would keep the oath which he swore to your fathers. So basically, this is a 4-fold answer of why I choose Jews. Because he chose his people, because his people was the least among all the peoples, because God loves his people, and because he swore to keep an oath to the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So basically, it's a decision that God made based on his sovereignty character, love, and word, which we have in each of the four categories. And we can move on to slides, I think. And what we can do, if we go back one, what we can do about his decision is really decide if we accept it and to which capacity we do, capacity and depth. And the more we embrace his decision, the more we're able to embrace complete assurance and power and live according to Romans 8, especially the section of verses between 18 and 30. So that's the first section, and I'm not going to go too much into that because, as I told you, I want to focus more on the personal, my personal story, and Chris is going to have some questions in the end. But anyways, moving on to the next or to the second aspect, which is a little bit more subjective, as you can see here, and it has to do with the question of why is Hebrew worship unique. And again, it's a lot more subjective because it's just my answer to it. And for me, it's found in the simple fact that Hebrew is the original language of the Torah, the prophets, the writings, and it contains an enormous source of wealth, even in just how the language itself is built. And I wanted to, park here for a little bit, really a little bit, and share with you some very cool words and a they called it, I found this in Wikipedia, I think, and they called it the construction menorah. There you go. So in very short, and don't worry, I'm not going to go too much into detail. This construction menorah, you can see, are 7 main constructions to create verbs in Hebrew. We have pa'al, nifal, ifil, ufal, piel, pual, and itpael. And they're, some of them are more active, some of them are more passive, some of them are reflexive. And if we take the word, do you remember the word I used for worship last week? It was hishtachvaya, and I made you say it right there in front of your screens. And you can try to say it again right now together with me. 3, 2, 1. Hishtachvaya. Awesome. So this word is built, I guess the verb of this word, because hishtachvaya is a noun, the verb of it is built from hitpael, the construction hitpael, which is highlighted for you in the middle there. And it's a reflexive, intensive, and also causative verb indicating to taking an action that affects oneself. So one of the emails that I got throughout the week was about the verbs in Hebrew, or verbs in Hebrew compared to verbs in English. Some of them are more positional and some of them are more like speaking verbs. So this really tells you that this particular one, hishtachvaya or lishtachavot, to bow, to worship, to kneel, to all of these definitions that we mentioned last week, it's all about a position of the body. So it's something that's done externally, physically, but it literally tells of the state of our intention and obviously our heart. So I love the connection we have in all of this. In the next slide, again, we have all of that. It's a little bit, I went into a little bit more detail with this word, and we can see that I just wrote it there. You can't see it. I made the research about it, but the root of it, the etymology, the history of the word itself goes all the way back and reaches Akkadian, Aramaic, Yemenite, and I think there were more, but just select a few, and conjugating it differently. It gives you different meanings of the word, but ultimately this particular one always, because of its root, will always be to express, to gesture, to kneel, to bow down, to give honor to an authority figure. Let's look at 3 more.
Yeah, El, can I ask a question?
It looks like you have a question. Yeah.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
I noticed that the hishtachvaya ends with a ya, which is that the name of the Lord there tucked in the word for worship, or is that am I assuming too much there?
It would have been cool. It is, yeah, is the name of God in Hebrew, but at the same time, there are many words that end this way, and it's I don't know the terminology in English to explain, but some nouns or with the sound of ah in the end, and that helps you understand that and stuff like that. So it's not that you're assuming too much. That's a good catch. But specific, and it would have been so cool, right?
It would have been perfect. That I was trying to set it up there, but that's what happens, I guess, sometimes.
Specifically in this one, the noun, yeah, we can totally say it wasn't meant that way, but yes, it is there. So we'll look at it like that.
Thank you, Yael, for making me feel good.
Three more words that I didn't talk about last week that are also used to express worship in different forms. You have them here. The first one is lisgod, to idolize. From the root, it's underlined there, the samech, the gimel, and the daled, S, G, and D. And this is where we get the word misgad, which, if you can tell, lisgod, misgad sounds similar. Misgad in Hebrew is mosque, a mosque, which is obviously a sanctuary of worship for the Muslims, obviously, but still. So we have, I'm just showing you how you take one root and make different words that have different meanings, but they all are of the same initial meaning. If you take the second word, leha'atziv, it comes from the root etzev, or etzev, ein tzadi, and bet, and it literally means nerve or to make sad. But the thing is, etzev in the biblical Hebrew also meant idols. So this is a combination of idols or foreign gods. And this is a combination of when the people of Israel worshipped foreign gods, it made God sad. And so leha'atziv, to worship foreign gods, basically also meant to make sad. And it's a beautiful word or a picture that is depicted in just this word of when you're not worshiping God, our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then you're making him sad. And also that means that you're idol worshiping. So that's all of it tied up in this one word. And then the third one is la'avod, which means to work, which is from the root ein, bet, and daled, but it also means a slave, eved. That's if you take just a root form of it, and that's where we get the notion of working onto God, la'avod et Elohim. If you working onto God, which also then is referring to worshipers, sort of like slaving onto God. And in the next slide we have Eved. Yeah, exactly. So you can see the one before, we can see how not chapter, but the same, at least the Hebrew letters, if you can spot it. Now it also gives us the picture from Isaiah 52 and 53, where it talks about the servant of the Lord, and the KJV uses the word servant, which is mesharet in Hebrew, which is not eved, but the word in Hebrew in the Bible there is eved, which is really cool because of the next slide. If we take the word work, it has two words in Hebrew that's used for it. One is melacha and the other is avodah. Melacha, the first one that you have there, it is rooted from the word from melech, mem lamed chaf, which is, if we say melech, that's the word for king. Avodah is rooted in ein bet daled, or eved, servant, what the one we had just previously. And so where am I getting at with all this? melacha, because it comes from the root of the word king, or, the three letters that make the word king, is a work of a king, which essentially, if we, talk about Isaiah 52:3, in a sense, that's what Jesus as the ultimate slave and king has accomplished, because his work was a kingly work, a kingly effort, and ours as humans, as people, is avodah. Because of that, we're people, and the posture and direction of our that's where the posture and direction of our effort comes from, as being servants or slaves. So same word for work, two completely different angles to it, and aspects, and I love how there's so much depth and richness to it, and I know it's extremely complex, and we just talked about what was it, 4 or 5 words right now, in several minutes, and I showed you the construction menorah and everything. I know it can look like Chinese, but it just was to show you a tiny little bit of this element from this Hebrew, and to point you and to show you how intertwined just these few words are, and not only in their own setting, but also in relation to other languages they grew alongside with in the last several thousand years, and what depths we can reach when we dive into the word in its original form and meaning. And to me, every time I think about it, and I have no words to express it, to be able to read it and to understand at least most of it, or at least have the tools to be able to understand more, and to explore to whichever depth I'm capable at arriving, the riches and the wealth and the mysteries and the gems that this language contains. And then more and more of what God had designed and planted there. But that was our Hebrew lesson for today. No more. Not gonna hurt your brains with all of these explanations, because I promised that last week I'll share a little bit more about myself. And if you cue in a question, I guess.
I did. See, that's why I like to do the pop in, because then a question is coming. I think you and I talked about this earlier, either today or yesterday. I can't remember, but I'm interested to know. You can open the Psalms and read the poetry of the Psalms in its original form. And I know on a very elementary basis that it is different. When David was writing in this poetry form of worship, that there is a real richness that any English translation could never provide, or any translation could ever provide in the Hebrew. And I think I asked you this last time we talked, but what inspiration do you get? Any inspiration when you're writing worship, when you read through the Psalms in its original language, the way David would have written it, or any of the psalmists? Do you pull inspiration from that at all, or anything of that nature? I'm just interested.
First of all, the short answer for sure. Longer answer, most of it would depend on my mood, and when I open the Psalms. I usually go there when my soul knows it needs to. So in a tougher spot, or in a season where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is I need some Psalms as some soul healing here. And that's when I'll go there. And for me, it's easy. I can look outside my window and see the desert that David was running up and down in, and it's easier for me to get the picture, the idea, to have the heat, the same heat in summer, or just the same, or not same obviously, but closer experience to what he experienced, and see this. If I go, it's just a 40-minute drive for me to go to En-Gedi and be in some of the caves if I want to, where he probably have written some of these songs. So yeah, it is it is definitely an inspiration, but even more than that, it becomes a bigger, deeper inspiration when my heart is aching for someone else, and it can be a season that my people go through, that this country goes through, family, closer people, not so close people. Just that would draw me to dig for encouragement from there, because he offered so much of it through just describing his personal relationship with the Lord. So, yeah, definitely. Awesome. So, okay, more about my journey, and it's a little bit awkward for me to do that. And yes, that's gonna be our next one, our next song we listen to, but it's gonna be a bit before I get there. So just a little bit about me, so you get to know who it is that's speaking to you. From whenever, if I go back to the beginning of my life, from whenever I can remember myself, I was always musically inclined, so to speak, and had a keen ear for tones and beats, and just being self-taught, at least on the guitar. And I think I saw one of the questions there in the chat that asked how many instruments I play. I may have caught that, and if not, you're gonna hear about it anyways. So I took 4 years of piano, and then just taught myself how to play the guitar when I was in high school. And because I love beats, I'm not a drummer, but I'm a percussionist. So any item that I can drum on, I will drum on, and shakers and all that. The world of percussion I really, really love. So these are my, and singing, obviously. So these are my instruments. And one of the biggest things when I was in high school was I didn't know that at the time, but listening to different melodies and then going and either playing them on the piano or on the guitar. I did that many, many times for hours. I would just listen to something and then go and practice it and listen to it again, and until I got it just perfect. And then also during my high school years, I've written hundreds of poems and songs, most of which had nothing to do with any Christian lyrics. So there's nothing to do with them, but it was just my way of expressing and starting to form, I guess, my writing abilities and expression abilities. And so that's when it all started. And then about 15 years or so, give or take, I cannot remember how I got to be a part of this production, but one of the national organizations in Israel was putting on a concert made up of newly written songs by local believers in Hebrew. And now, mind you, in Israel, you can count on one hand the amount of national organizations we have at all in Israel for the body of believers. And then with 2 fingers exactly, the amount of organizations that produce national events for believers in Israel in general. So anyways, I was a part of this concert, and I was in this choir. And during rehearsals, I remember looking at the conductor, and she was also the one who arranged the whole concert, and the wife of the founding pastor of the church that I attend. So anyways, I remember looking at her and I'm thinking, you know what? This lady is great at what she does, but at the same time, she will not be able to do this forever. And I wonder if I could just shadow her and learn whatever I can, so that, who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to take over, so to speak, her position when she wasn't able to do what she was doing anymore. So I literally went to her. I have no idea where this chutzpah or chutzpah came from, but I went to her later that day and I asked her if I could be her shadow because I wanted to be her. And I literally used this word, so I'm quoting here. I wanted to be her one day when she wasn't able to be her. in the future. And she was really, really gracious and kind, and said that I was welcome to join all the behind the scenes meetings and whatever action was going to take place in the post production process after the concert. So I know today, after having spoken with her about it, that she was so surprised that anyone would come to ask her something like that, but also thrilled because, who does that? Who comes and says, "Hey, can I be your disciple?" Really, who does that today? So anyways, I came to all of the post-production meetings and recordings and mixes and all that, and I got a first row seat to all of the production world for the first time. And it was during that season that I realized that if I'm gonna be her and even excel and do things better or in a bigger way, then I really need to get the big scope, the whole scope, and the big picture of production, both in its technical both the technical aspect of it and the digital one and the aesthetic one, all of the recording stuff with the different technical things, all the computers, how you do all these things, and then all about the writing and composition and arrangement and conduction and the band and all that. And that's why I went to Winnipeg. I told you about that, I think, last week, to get my sound engineering diploma. And sure enough, my ears got trained there in ways that I could have never foreseen. But it was such a phenomenal experience that I loved. And then when I returned to Israel, I got to work in this, the only Christian recording studio that existed in Jerusalem. And while doing that, the first project that I got to record was Handel's Messiah in Hebrew. And that was just phenomenal for me. I was so excited about that. That was just great. And obviously a whole bunch of other projects and singles and all that. But, and this is where we get this from, I got to record Praises, the whole album. And I wanted to share this song with you. It's called Love. Irit was the one who wrote that, but I recorded it and we're singing it together. And let's have a listen to Love from the album Praises. I think Chris is setting it up. Right, Chris? Well, in the meantime, there you go. Okay, cool. Until we get the song up, before you started, Chris, let me answer one of the questions here I got in the chat. Handel's Messiah was recorded in a theater hall, so it was inside. But yeah. All right, let's have a listen.
אם בלשונות בני אדם ומלאכים אדבר, אם תהיה לי מתת הנבואה ואשיא כל סודות ודעת, אם תהיה בי כל האמונה ואחלק רכושי ותן את גופי, לא יועיל לי דבר אם אין בי אהבה. אם בלשונות בני אדם ומלאכים אדבר, אם תהיה לי מתת הנבואה ואשיא כל סודות ודעת, טובת עצמה, לא תתרכז, לא תחשוב רעה, האהבה לא תשמח בעוולה, כי באמת שמחתה. אם בלשונות בני אדם ומלאכים אדבר, אם תהיה לי בתת הנבואה ועשי כל סודות ודעת, אם תהיה בי כל האמונה ואחלק רכושי ותן אל גופי, לא יועיל לי דבר אם אין בי אהבה. אהבה סבלנית ונדיבה, אהבה אינה מקנאת, לא תנהג בגסות, לא תתפאר ולא תתנשא, לא תדרוש טובת עצמה, לא תתרגז, לא תחשוב רעה, האהבה לא תשמח בעוולה, כי באמת שמחתה. היא תכסה על הכל, תאמין בהכל, תקווה להכל ותסבול את הכל. היא תכסה על הכל, תאמין בהכל, תקווה להכל ותסבול את הכל. היא תכסה על הכל, תאמין בהכל, תקווה להכל ותסבול את הכל. לא תימות לעולם האהבה. אם בלשונות בני אדם ומלאכים אדבר, אם תהיה לי מתת הנבואה ועשי כל סודות ודעת, אם תהיה בי כל האמונה ואחלק רכושי ותן את גופי, לא יועיל לי דבר אם אין בי אהבה. לא יועיל לי דבר אם אין בי אהבה.
So that was Love from the album Praises. You can catch it on my YouTube channel called Everything Worship. About a year after this album came out, Irit and I we became a traveling singing duo. And while we were still leading Yuval, the worship center that I mentioned to you last week. And we realized at some point that we don't have any modern Christian songs for kids. And back at the time, we shared an apartment, so writing was, or composing really, for this particular project was easier, I guess. Because we wanted to select verses, and yeah, so we weren't doing a lot of writing on this one. But anyways, this particular project was made up of so many miracles that we both lost track of how many. Like for the first miracle, I think I can tell you about was the fact that the entire project, the entire album was written within the scope of 2 weeks. All 17 songs in this album were written within 2 weeks. It never happened before, and it never happened since. So we figured out the best way we remember songs is, or remember verses, was that if they're composed, it just stays there. And I think it's the same for all of us. We'll remember a song and the song lyrics, and especially if it's a verse, better if it's composed. And then, you not only remember them for the time being, but you remember it for life. So we contacted some parents and asked them which verses they would love for their children to memorize. And we all obviously had a list of our own, so we just compiled 17, what became 17 songs of this album, and 7 months after the album was ready and out. And I can share so many stories. Not yet with the song. We'll hear it in a moment. I can share a whole bunch of stories about this album, but I think last week I told you that I have this very unique thing that happened when we were recording Avinu Shebashamayim, which is our Father in Heaven. So I just wanted to share that with you. The whole album is recorded by kids, and obviously this song also was recorded by Eitan, who is an autistic kid who was 13 years old at the time, and he took lessons in Yuval and the worship center, and that's how we got to know him. And this kid, he had and has, I guess, near perfect hearing, and loves to sing, I should say. So naturally, we thought it would be amazing if he could sing in our album. Now, the thing is, I just mentioned that he's autistic, and we had no idea what recording him might look like, because there are a whole bunch of potential triggers to anyone with autism. He needed to be in a different room and behind a glass, and he had the headphones on his ears, and I would talk to him through a talkback, so it's through the system and not directly. And he couldn't sing, like, the song is long. It's about, what is it, a little bit longer than 4 minutes. So I couldn't record, if we just needed a small bit, I couldn't record the whole song again and again and again. So we just didn't know how it was gonna go. But we prayed a lot, and the recording day came, and as the recording engineer, I explained as much as I could. I gave him all the information, gave him a ton of information about what was going on, what we were gonna do, because I knew that the more he knew, the more information he had, the safer he would feel. So we dimmed the lights, and I asked him if he's ready. And this kid, I tell you, it was so sweet. It's as if he was doing this for years already. He goes, "Musica bevakasha," which is like, please just play the music. So I smiled, and everyone laughed behind me, and I was extremely relieved, and obviously had a little bit of a tear in my eye, because he's just such a sweet kid. And another extraordinary thing that happened with this song, and I'm telling you all these things so that you get this emotional buildup before we listen to it, is that two single ladies, at least Irit was still single at the time, we were recording 8 kids for 8 hours, thinking that just one lunch break would be enough, and a whole bunch of sugar. And yeah, we can record all of the bits that these kids needed to record. But sure enough, as the sugar we injected them with wore off towards the end of the day, we had this one last song we needed to record, which was this one, Our Father in Heaven. And we had already given it a few shots, but it wasn't quite there with the dynamic and the gusto I know that it needed. And I'm like, okay, we need to give it one last shot. Come on, guys. Can you just trying to talk to the kids. And Irit is looking at me from the tracking room, because she was directing them. And she's like, come on, please, let's just call it a day. And she's exhausted, and everyone's exhausted. And as we're having this back and forth through the system, through the talkback, one of the girls all of a sudden says, hey, can you turn the lights off? And I'm like, sure, but why? And then she said, well, it'll just help us worship better, and we can just focus on really worshiping and not recording. And so Irit and I, we were stunned, and we were shocked, and immediately I turned off the light and hit the record button. Let me tell you, what we heard was it just shocked us. It was one of the sweetest and most pure moments of worship I have ever witnessed in my life, when a group of 8 kids sung to the top of their lungs, with their arms raised high and their eyes closed, and we just got to see them. They praise and worship. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And you know, when the song ended, there was this moment there of just awe, because it was just so unique. So let's join with this same spirit of awe and uniqueness with this kids as they proclaim, for yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory. Amen.
יום אחד ישוע יצא להתפלל. כשסיים, אחד מן התלמידים ביקש ממנו שילמד אותם איך להתפלל.
למד אותנו כיצד להתפלל.
ישוע השיב,
כך התפללו אתם. אבינו שבשמיים, יתקדש שמך. תבוא מלכותך, יעשה רצונך כבשמיים, כן בארץ. אבינו שבשמיים, יתקדש שמך. תבוא מלכותך, יעשה רצונך כבשמיים, כן בארץ. חוקנו תן לנו היום, וסלח לנו על חטאינו כפי שסולחים גם אנחנו לחוטאים לנו, ואל תביאנו לידי ניסיון, כי
So now I think you see what I mean with
I'm tearing up. Yeah, Al, I'm tearing up. Okay, that was awesome.
I just try to imagine those kids standing there, just, singing and praising and all in a dark room because they asked the lights to be off so they can praise. That's just, yeah, phenomenal. So I just want to, for the sake of time, I had some more stories laid up for you, but I want us to listen to another song from a completely different production. Aid and I were involved in so many productions, writing, overseeing, and all of that, but this particular one is called Panai El Adonai, My Face Toward the Lord. It's a concert that we not created, but produced through Yuval some years ago into 2017. And this next song, Ha'el Panecha, Make Your Faces Shine, is taken from there. And it's really joining with the prophet Daniel with his prayer from chapter 9 for the people of Israel.
Is that the right one there?
Yeah. It is.
ואתנה את פניי אל אדוני האלוהים, לבקש תפילה ותחנונים. ואתנה את פניי אל אדוני האלוהים, לבקש תפילה ותחנונים. הטה אלוהי אוזנך ושמע, פקח עיניך וראה. האר פניך כי שמך נקרא על עירך ועל עמך. האר פניך כי שמך נקרא על עירך ועל עמך. ואתפללה לאדוני אלוהי, ואתוודע אומרה לאדוני, הטה אלוהי אוזנך ושמע, קח עיניך וראה. האר פניך כי שמך נקרא על עירך ועל עמך. האר פניך כי שמך נקרא על עירך ועל עמך. אדוני, שמע אדוני, סלח אדוני, הקשיבה ועשה. אדוני, שמע אדוני, סלח אדוני, הקשיבה ועשה. אדוני, שמע אדוני, סלח אדוני, הקשיבה ועשה. אדוני, שמע אדוני, סלח אדוני, אתנה את פניי אל אדוני האלוהים.
So I guess this is to me where the Hebrew aspect of worship was and is expressed. And I know that we've already passed our hour mark, and so there's just a few more minutes that I want to share with you, and then finish with a last song. Anyways, the Hebrew aspect of worship was always for me to appreciate being able to read the Word of God in its original, in the language it was originally written in, to be able to understand the root system of the verbs and realize and be able to understand the vast wealth that such an expression system even contains, and then to discover for myself the love that God has for his people. And that project, that concert was such a key thing for me to understand that. And I guess that's mainly why I have this passion to go back again and again and again to the Word and compose scripture as much as I can, because it's the same language that God spoke when he created the world some several thousands of years ago. And lo and behold, his Word still stands, and his world still stands. There's still light, there's still sun, there's still moon, there's still waters and animals and people, and there's just this divine power in the Word. There's endless beauty and depth to it, and God made it so that our hearts appreciate beauty in so many forms, which for me in this particular context is music. And I want to read this quote to you that just resonated with me to my core. And we have that in a slide, and we can put it up or not, but it's just listen to this. Beauty in a culture of brokenness arrests our attention and compels emotions to well up inside of us, as our minds are stirred and drawn out of the brokenness around us into this portal of the divine. So to me, music is a tool, it's a door, it's a means to arrest my attention, our attention, and to get us out of wherever it is we're in any given moment, and by the power of the living Word to make us look up, or at least out of the reality in which we're in, through this portal of the divine to his presence. And that's where the task of matching or fitting his living Word with living music is obviously no small feat. And of course, having said that, of course, there's power to personal encounters we share about in a song that we express through crafted lyric, which is not the Word, but at the end of the day, we're mere humans, and his Word, the Word of God Almighty, just carries with it and in it a different kind of potency, if I may use this description. And again, not saying the personal lyrics are not good or should be used or should not be used for composition and songwriting, but just that there's something else that is of God when you use his Word to bring encouragement, faith, healing, even celebration and joy. And this is the note that I want us to finish on. So let's listen to the last song, which is called Joy, and this high note of rejoicing.
וישמחו כל חוסי בך, ישמחו בך כל שלט, ויספו ענבים באדוני שמחה. וישמחו כל חוסי בך, ישמחו בך כל שלט, ויספו ענבים באדוני שמחה. Trust you, let them rejoice, all who are godly. Let the humble be filled with joy. Let them rejoice, all who trust you. Let them rejoice, all who are godly. Let the humble be filled with joy. Be filled with joy. Be filled with joy. ישישו כל אוהביך, ישמחו בך כל מבקשך, ויאספו הענבים באדוני שמחה. ויאספו joy, joy. Let them rejoice, all who love you. Let them rejoice, all those who seek you. Let the humble be filled with joy. Be filled with joy. Be filled with joy. Be filled with joy. Be filled with שמחו דורשי אדוני, שמחו חוסי אדוני. Rejoice in your heart shall live. שמחו דורשי אדוני, שמחו חוסי אדוני. Rejoice in your heart shall live. שמחו דורשי אדוני, שמחו חוסי אדוני. ויחי לבכם בשמחה. שמחה.
So we had lots of music. We had some personal stories, and you popped in, so I guess you have another question asked.
Well, I'm not just the question guy too. I am actually I want to be an encourager too, because Yael, I just want you to know, watching all of the worship music that we've been blessed by tonight, there is no doubt that you and Irit are gifted by God to lead people to his presence. And honestly, I had a fantastic night hearing the backstories of these worship stories. They matter. Sometimes you just sing a worship song and you don't even realize the depth and the meaning of some of those worship songs. And so it was so great to be able to hear that. And I know as we're closing our night, I love seeing some of the questions that are coming in, like, can you teach us some online percussion? We might have, I can't imagine an FOI equip class where we're doing a percussion lesson. Maybe we got to think about that for 2023. That might be fun, that would be great. People asking, where can I find can we find Handel's Messiah in Hebrew? Where can we get the lyrics for the?
That was a good question. I wish I knew also. I don't know. It might, I can ask about that. I don't know because it's all like in ancient form, the form of CD. So I'll have to see. I don't know.
That's good. Well, so, I had somebody else say, are your slides that you created still available? And yes, we're going to email those out to everybody so that if you'd like to look over Yael's slides and all the amazing stuff. She had more slides too. I'm sorry, just time cut short and because we were having so much fun. Yael, I'd like to know what's one thing that you would like to leave our equippers with this evening, as you're wrapping up your amazing Hebrew worship seminar. What's something you'd like to leave the people with?
I think, the thing I've been drilling, excuse me, again and again and again is it's all about the heart. The worship is the matter of the heart. And if you don't remember anything else, that is definitely something that I'm still learning each and every day. Just today, I've had a very long conversation with Jesus about where's my heart at, and how I need to, reconstruct a whole bunch of things. And it's just an ongoing journey. Every single day, you would be aware of something else, and it's to me, worship is also this journey that I go on with him that includes everything that I was mentioning last week. How do you obey but be real? How do you pour your heart but still keep joy because it's rooted in faith and you want to have this hope and this is how you please him? So it's understanding all of these things, and this is how you grow in the relationship with Yeshua, with Jesus. So it's all about the heart.
It's all about the heart. I want to thank you so much. And for everybody who came on, I want to thank you for being a part of our Hebrew worship seminar, something that's very unique to Friends of Israel. I was trying to hurry up and quickly share the screen of how people can connect with you. So do you want to share with that now, how people can connect with you, how they can partner with you? I'm going to get that screen up as soon as possible, but could you share that really quick?
Sure. I actually did not put it in the end of my presentation after all, but again, everythingworship.org is the website. Everything Worship YouTube channel is where you can find all of these things. There you go. Cool. Yay.
Yep.
Well, you are such a funny guy. You spelled my name with a Y again.
I thought that was you. Was that you or I did that?
Yeah, I probably would spell my name with a J. But anyways, so email me at contact@everythingworship.org. I am behind some emails because I needed to get this presentation ready for this evening. But I read your emails, and like I said before about Freda and the beautiful things that she wrote about the sounds in the Garden of Eden. Anyways, I am reading all of these things, and I am replying, and it's been a joy and a pleasure for me to be with you in these two sessions, and who knows, maybe there'll be more in the future.
I'm counting on it. Hey, I just want to remind everybody what Yael does with a J and not with a Y, so on me. What Yael does requires a lot of prayer. It requires a lot of encouragement and it requires a lot of support too. So I want to encourage you as our equippers, if you feel God compelling you to support Yael in the writing of worship, in her ministry, Everything Worship, you can contact her there and she'll connect you with ways that you can become a financial supporter of hers and also a prayer partner with hers. She provides all of this. I don't know if you see, a lot of it is just free. I saw somebody commenting, how do I get all these kids songs for my Sunday school? And it's all free. It's all online for the taking. And so that is a real blessing and an asset. And I love that resource that's available there. So you want to be sure to support her, to pray for her and what she's doing. Be sure to contact her here with that email. I also want to say this for our next class that starts March 10th. I'll be sending an email out, but we're going to be during the time of Purim. And Yael, I know Purim is a big deal in Israel. I was just teaching a bunch of elementary school kids about the celebration of Purim in Israel. It is a huge celebration. People get dressed up in costumes. It's a big deal. And so
I heard rehearsals today. I'm like, oh, is it Purim today? What? No, what did I miss? We're like, no, they were just rehearsing. So
they're rehearsing for the day, right? That's how big it is. But we're actually going to teach a lesson. It's a 3-week lesson on the understanding of anti-Semitism, past, present, and future. And our teacher, Ty Perry, is actually going to use the account of Purim from Esther as the answer, the ticket to understanding anti-Semitism, what God thinks about anti-Semitism, and what ultimately the resolve is to anti-Semitism. We all know it's Jesus. And so, we know the ending already, but Ty's going to walk us through the past, the present, and the future of anti-Semitism. And this is so important because we are seeing a rise of anti-Semitism all around the world. The Jewish people are in America. They make up 60% of the hate crimes committed in the United States. They are the highest form of hate crimes are committed towards the Jewish people in the United States. So just think about that. So anti-Semitism is still here. We need to talk about it. We need to wrestle with these issues. Ty Perry's going to be dealing with it. You can actually register today by going to gofoi.org/anti-Semitism to register for the class. I hope that you do that. That will start on March 10th. That'll be a 3-week class, and we're going to celebrate Purim in there in the middle too. So it'll be a great experience. But Yael, thank you so much. You've been a blessing beyond belief.
I enjoyed every moment, even though it was in the middle of the night for me.
Yes, I know. So you're going to go to bed now.
Yes.
You're going to relax. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We'll see you March 10th. More information coming. Be sure to support Yael, and we'll see you soon. God bless. Bye, Yael.
Bye.